The collection will try to cut off the head and leave the tail. If you enjoy watching, please support by liking, sharing and commenting. This is a horror film even more intense than JuOn. It's a vigorous folk horror movie. Even ghosts would be scared to death watching it. There is an ancient funeral custom in Taiwan. It is called sending away the evil spirits. It is said that those who commit suicide by hanging carry heavy resentment. After death, they transform into evil spirits to seek a substitute in the mortal realm. The sending away of evil spirits is performed by a Taoist priest. They tie the hanging rope into the shape of a meat dumpling. This is then taken to the river's mouth and burned. This is how the resentment of the evil spirits is pacified. It is worth noting that no one is allowed to interfere during the sending away ritual. Otherwise, they will be plagued by evil spirits and misfortune will befall them. As a result, Xiaoying unwittingly wandered into the sending off procession. Originally, this day was supposed to be a celebration for Xiaoying and Akang's wedding. Unexpectedly, the neighbors were holding a sending off ceremony next door. Xiaoying, being an outsider, didn't understand the taboos involved. She even used high heels to drink the ceremonial cup of wine. Just as the crowd began to clap and cheer, a drunken old man suddenly barged into the crowd. He angrily accused Akang. "My nephew. He's been struggling in Taipei for 20 years. Today, he brought his bride back here. His wings are strong enough now. They're sending away the meat dumpling outside. He even dares to get married today. He truly doesn't value his life." Xiaoying was curious about what sending away the meat dumpling meant, but Akang clearly didn't want to say more. "It's nothing, just a folk custom." Seeing the old man still wanting to cause trouble, the crowd quickly stepped forward to stop him. However, they accidentally hurt his nose. Seeing blood flowing, Xiaoying kindly went to get a tissue, but as she turned around, she saw a strange woman in red standing in the distance. Unfortunately, the distance was too great, and Xiaoying couldn't see the woman's face clearly. However, the woman's deathly gaze sent a shiver down Xiaoying's spine. At that moment, Akang ran over. He told her he was going to drive the old man to the hospital. Xiaoying finally regained her composure, but when she looked at the woman again, the other person had mysteriously vanished. Xiaoying, whose wedding was forced to stop, could only navigate home with her phone. As soon as she turned the corner, she unexpectedly encountered a group carrying lanterns, a procession that was beating gongs and drums. The four heavenly kings quickly surrounded her. The leading Taoist priest immediately questioned her. "Who goes there? Don't you know that tonight is the sending away of evil spirits? No one is allowed to go out." Xiaoying looked bewildered. She just wanted to go home. But the priest warned her, "Once you enter the sending off procession, you cannot leave on your own. You must follow through the entire event. Otherwise, evil energy will be entangled with you." Xiaoying felt confused, so she planned to take another route home. "You cannot leave. Otherwise, you'll be possessed by evil energy." But Xiaoying didn't listen to the priest's warnings at all. She turned and quickly left. She was completely unaware that she had already gotten herself into trouble. Xiaoying wandered around the alley for a long time. Yet, she still couldn't find her way home. Suddenly, a chill wind blew by. The hanging lamp on the wall shook violently. She felt a cold sensation on her back. She hurriedly took out her phone for navigation. But then, something strange happened. The phone flickered uncontrollably a few times. A woman in red appeared on the navigation screen. The woman slowly turned her head. In the next second, Xiaoying was gripped by a mysterious force around her neck. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself lying in her home bathtub. Akang was still outside the door, anxiously asking about her condition. Xiaoying was momentarily confused. "Why am I here?" But she was told by Akang that she had passed out on the road from drinking too much. It was only returned after being discovered by the villagers. But as soon as she entered, there were ghostly howls. Then she took off her wedding dress and went to take a shower. Xiaoying was utterly astonished after hearing this. Clearly, she had no recollection of what had happened before. Meanwhile, the Taoist priest also sent the meat dumplings out to sea. He completed the ritual to send away the evil spirits. But oddly enough, Xiaoying suddenly began to vomit uncontrollably at that moment. A large stain of blood appeared on her wedding dress. Xiaoying hurriedly took the wedding dress to the bathroom to wash it. But no matter how she scrubbed, she couldn't remove the bloodstains. Having no choice, Xiaoying had to give up. It was late at night. If only she had a car, she could take it to the dry cleaners. Speaking of cars, I recently got a new car. By the way, how do people sell their old cars after buying new ones? How do they sell the old ones? Like my BMW 3 Series that I've driven for 2 years. I could sell it on Guazi secondhand cars. And it could sell for 230,000. Guazi is a nationwide auction model for buyers. The more buyers there are, the higher the price. After the car is listed on Guazi, over 20 buyers place bids. 007370. It sells for much higher than what I would get at a couple of offline stores. In the past year, car prices have dropped particularly fast. In just a year, that's a loss of tens of thousands. If you want to sell your car, don't hesitate. You should listen to me. If you want to sell your old car for a high price, hurry and contact Guazi for a free on-site appraisal. The next morning, Xiaoying arrived at the dry cleaners with her wedding dress. She found that the dry cleaner's owner was not home. Just as she was about to leave, she encountered the Taoist priest who had warned her last night. "You left the send-off ritual halfway, violating the taboo. The evil energy is attached to you. This evil energy on you must be resolved quickly. Otherwise, a great disaster will befall you." Xiaoying thought the priest was talking nonsense. Plus, she was an atheist. She didn't take the priest's words to heart at all. However, what happened next completely derailed Xiaoying's life. When she returned home to prepare to wash her wedding dress again, she found that the dirty water from last night had completely blocked the drain. Xiaoying had no choice but to use a hook to clear the drain. However, she unexpectedly pulled out a clump of hair. An earring was still attached to the hair. What on earth was going on? By nightfall, Xiaoying confronted Akang with the earring. Akang did not hide anything from her. He said the owner of the earring was his ex-girlfriend. However, they had long since broken up completely. Yet Xiaoying couldn't help but ask about the reason for their breakup. How else could they break up? It was just a personality clash, after all. To put Xiaoying's mind at ease, Akang directly threw the earring into the trash can. However, the situation was not over. That night, Xiaoying, fast asleep, suddenly felt a bulge in her abdomen. Then something began to writhe under her blanket. It crawled all the way to under Xiaoying's palm. Curious, she lifted the blanket. In a panic, Xiaoying urged Akang to quickly take her to the hospital for an examination, but the doctor informed her that she was pregnant. Xiaoying was instantly stunned. They had taken precautions every time. How could she possibly be pregnant? Could it be that a little tadpole broke through all the barriers and found its way home? But the odds of that were lower than winning the lottery. Akang was overjoyed to hear this news. But Xiaoying was not in high spirits, because she had a traumatic experience once. Years ago, when her ex-boyfriend learned that Xiaoying was pregnant, he quickly ran away, leaving her to face the cold machines alone, and the bloody scenes. That night, Xiaoying dreamt again of the scene during the abortion. Then, a baby's mournful cries unexpectedly came from beneath her. Xiaoying looked down. The terrifying scene nearly made her lose her mind. Blood was gushing wildly beneath her. It had already stained most of the bed red. It was dripping steadily onto the floor. Panicked, Xiaoying hurriedly jumped off the bed. She wanted to escape this haunted place, but the door wouldn't budge at all. Meanwhile, beneath the wedding dress hanging in the bathroom, a pair of pale feet, stained with blood, slowly emerged. Immediately, faint footsteps approached upstairs. In the next moment, just then, Akang returned home from work. He was surprised to see Xiaoying in her wedding dress, sitting at the vanity, brushing her hair. A peculiar smile lingered on her face. Seeing this, Akang walked up to her. He teased her, asking if she wanted to get married again. Suddenly, Xiaoying turned her head. "Husband, why didn't you come to see me when I died?" Akang felt his hair stand on end after hearing this. He looked at Xiaoying in terror, unsure of what to do. At that moment, the woman in the mirror appeared more terrifying than ever. Immediately, Xiaoying started to cough violently. Her body was also convulsing uncontrollably. But the next second, she regained her senses again. "Why am I wearing a wedding dress?" Akang hurriedly embraced her. He was afraid that something strange would happen to her again. However, bizarre things happened again the next day. Xiaoying accidentally discovered that the wedding dress not only moved on its own, but also bled a lot. This finally made Xiaoying realize the danger. She quickly took the wedding dress to find the Taoist priest. The Taoist priest touched it with his hand, and surprisingly found an earring in the seam of the wedding dress. Xiaoying was extremely terrified after seeing this. Wasn't this earring thrown away? Why did it appear here? This earring is a relic of the deceased. The send-off team you interrupted that day was there to send her off. Xiaoying stared blankly at the earring. Why did a relic of the deceased appear in her home? The Taoist priest told Xiaoying that last week, a woman in red hanged herself in the village. She had vowed that even in death, she would die in her ex-husband's house. Obviously, Akang is the ex-husband of the woman in red. Xiaoying panicked upon hearing this. The debts of infidelity Akang incurred must be paid by her. She quickly begged the priest to save her and her child. The priest, seeing this, gave her a 5-thunder talisman for protection. He also instructed her to cover the doors and windows with yellow talismans. Absolutely do not go out after dark. At the same time, the priest would also hold a ritual. Central Altar Marshal, follow my lead. Central Altar Marshal, turn with me. Urgent as the law commands. Follow me, follow me. The procession for sending away the evil spirits set off again. But this time, they were sending off that blood-stained wedding dress. Akang, returning home from work, saw the house full of talismans and looked puzzled. Xiaoying, however, asked him in disappointment. The person who was sent away that day. You know who it is, right? Akang habitually evaded the question, until Xiaoying firmly stated that the woman was his ex-wife. You divorced because of her, didn't you? Don't forget, everything you eat and use was bought by me. It turned out that Akang fell in love with someone else after marriage. Unbeknownst to her, Xiaoying was that outsider. The woman threatened Akang with a knife to not get a divorce. Akang grabbed her wrist and slammed it against the wall, then pressed her head under the shower, drenching the woman's head with icy cold water. A woman becomes hopeless enough to commit suicide by hanging. However, Akang repeatedly insists it's not his fault. If it were in ancient times, such a scummy man should be punished by immersing in a pig cage. Upon learning the truth, Xiaoying instantly breaks down. She immediately proposes to divorce Akang. As a result, Akang reveals his true nature again. He uses the child to morally bind her. Do you want this child to grow up without a father? Faced with this situation, Xiaoying can only cry out helplessly. On the other side, the sending away of the evil spirits team has already arrived at the seaside. But terrifyingly, a woman's crying voice unexpectedly comes from the wedding dress. At this moment, the atmosphere in the house changes for Xiaoying. Her eyes are filled with murderous intent. She turns to caress Akang's face, and grits her teeth, saying, "Don't forget, everything you eat and use is bought by me. You scumbag, you scumbag." Xiaoying suddenly becomes possessed by the woman in red. I wish I could skin Akang alive, but at the critical moment, he inexplicably fainted. It turned out that the ritual was taking effect, but the vengeful spirit's evil energy was too strong. It tormented Xiaoying to the point of despair. In the end, it even broke through the window sealed by the yellow talisman. Akang turned around to take a look. He was immediately terrified by the scene before him. Just as Akang was about to run away, he was suddenly yanked back by a shadow. No matter how he struggled, it was in vain. The next second, a pair of familiar high heels appeared in front of Akang. Akang, whose neck was tightly gripped by the vengeful spirit, finally uttered that belated apology, but the strange expression on the spirit's face seemed to say, "This is for the King of Hell. I'm only here to take you to see the King of Hell." However, as the wedding dress was slowly consumed by the flames, the female ghost suddenly began to wail in pain. At this moment, Xiaoying also regained consciousness. Although she was very angry, seeing Akang in imminent danger, she still took out the Five Thunder Talisman. In an instant, a mysterious force pinned the female ghost against the wall. "I know you have a lot of grievances, a lot of hatred. But I beg you, do not harm us anymore." The scene shifted. Zhang Kui's divine power was fully displayed. He directly burned the wedding dress to ashes. Ultimately, he successfully helped the vengeful spirit find peace. Just when everyone thought it was over, the following events exceeded everyone's expectations. Akang mysteriously became lame in one leg. Even the doctors could not find the cause. And just as he came to deliver the divorce papers to Xiaoying unexpectedly discovered that an infant spirit was hanging on his left leg. It turned out that when the woman was abandoned by Akang, she had become pregnant with his child. But Akang's ruthless behavior forced her into a dead end. One corpse, two lives. Akang's sins are unforgivable. The priest only sent away the woman's soul, and that child still remains in the mortal world. I believe it won't be long. It will seek justice against its own kin. Alright, that's all for today's story. Subscribe to the channel to continue watching. See you next time.